Happy New
Happy
Year!
New Year!
Yay, it's 2020. We made it to another year. Good to see you again. Good to be talking with all of you guys. Today is something a little different. I'm going to be talking about some amazing astrological events coming up in 2020 and what they mean. Basically, my bottom line hit is this is going to be a pivotal year. This is going to be the year. The first thing I heard was like, you're going to look back and say there was before 2020 and then there was after 2020. Really a big change. And to start it off, we had the eclipse just recently in December. But moving forward, something that a lot of astrology-minded people have been talking about is coming up on January 12th, 2020, where I live. And it's a conjunction of Saturn and Pluto at 22 degrees Capricorn.
Now,
so
what does that mean, Sarah? What does that mean?
Well,
because
funny you ask.
I'm going to be your audience today because I don't know about this stuff. So you tell us all about it.
Sure. Yes. So Capricorn represents the patriarchy. In the negative sense, it's the old energy power systems. But it also has a positive side, which would be the good father. But what we're looking at with Saturn and Pluto have spent a bunch of time in Capricorn. And you can see that out in the world. For 2 years or so, you've been seeing exposure of the deep shadow Pluto stuff, of the institutions and the rigidity of the old energy system. So Saturn is the rules. You know, like you could see an example of in a physical body, Saturn would be your bones. So they're stiff and they're rigid, but you need them in order to make 3D reality work. So for the last 2 years, we've seen a buildup toward this conjunction. And the fact that it's at 22 degrees is probably not a coincidence. That's one of the master numbers, which represents bringing the cosmic wisdom down into the human reality in a way that people can grok and understand. It's in Capricorn, and then it's going to affect for like the next 2 years forward, this energy. Basically, it's the destruction of the older systems. So when you approach a conjunction or any other aspect like a square or a trine, that's the most intensity. So it's like building up intensity. You can see it like in the impeachment stuff. People are like, going over, just that one thing. And there's so much other stuff, so many arrests happening and other things going on. We don't need to go into that. So we're building up till this January 12th event. And that's like the intense peak of it. And both of these planets are slow moving. So it's not something that is like, oh, now you feel it in this hour. It's, over years and days and weeks.
And what is it with the January 12th? What is it that makes January 12th special compared to the others?
Oh, that's when Saturn and Pluto exactly conjunct each other. They're right next to each other in Capricorn. They've been kind of close and, do some retrogrades and stuff for a couple of years. And now they're going to be exacts. And then after that, say if they're 1 degree apart, approaching the exact, that's more intense than 1 degree apart afterwards.
Right.
We are in the intense period going up into this. The other thing about this conjunction, also like in a super, super tight within 1 degree is the sun, which is our fuel, and it's the energy from source that comes to our planet and the information from source. Also Mercury, the planet of communication and thought. So like you say, all this stuff is coming out in the news. That's a lot of mercurial energy. Also there is Ceres, which is the largest asteroid. And it's considered to be, you could say, motherhood and nurturing. It's very feminine. It represents also transitions in a woman's life, so it makes me think of Virgo, because Virgo is the keeper of sacred timing kind of thing. So it's about these transitions and changes. It also rules food and agriculture. And what's been going on with the exposure of Monsanto, the Roundup stuff, for example, is exactly the perfect Pluto and Saturn pressure on that with Ceres. So that's a really intense conjunction. And leading on throughout the rest of the year, there are follow-up ones. the next thing that happens is that Jupiter catches up with the Saturn-Pluto thing. So Jupiter is a planet, you could just say basic expansion, and everything has a positive and negative expression. So a positive expression of Jupiter could be, oh, I feel so big and bold and wonderful, oh, look at all the love, this huge expansion of the love coming to me. But it can also be the expansion of your belly if you eat too much chocolate or something like that. Since we were having that conversation about chocolate. So Jupiter catches up and adds an interesting energy. It's going to expand on it. And there will be 3 Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions next year. The first is April 5th, so at 24 degrees Capricorn, then June 30th. Then there's retrogrades going on, then it goes forward again. That's why you get 3 of them. There's retrogrades. And the last is November 20th of this month at 23 degrees because it went backwards. Yes, this year. Thank you. So it's going to be a very transformative year. There's other things that are coming on. I'll probably share more details later, but there's eclipses in Cancer. And one of the other things that I think is really interesting is December 21st. That's the solstice of 2020. We have finally Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct still, and they move out of Capricorn into Aquarius. It's actually at 0 degrees and 33 minutes or something like that. Really, really close. That to me speaks of we're moving out of the age of Capricorn into the age of Aquarius.
Really? Seriously?
Really groovy, yeah.
Okay.
And then it's happening on the solstice. So I think we're going to see a huge amount of change in this next year. The way that Saturn and Jupiter circle, they have a cycle where they are conjunct every 20 years. For example, 1940, Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Taurus, which is, these are earth signs. Then in 61, it was Capricorn. Then 1980, it was Libra. And then in 2000, Taurus. So those are all earth signs. So it stays in the earth signs. Then from 2020 going forward, it's going to be a similar sequence in air signs.
I see.
Aquarius is an air sign. So that double supports this. Mm-hmm. So be looking for changes. And when you see news, remember that this is actually a really positive transformation for our planet. We have to clean out our basement before we can have the party of celebrating the new Earth. One thing that's kind of interesting in this that I haven't seen anybody else talk about, it has to do with Trump's chart in relationship to this conjunction coming up in January of this year. There's a thing that not a whole lot of astrologers use, more Eastern astrologers do. They call it the vertex, and it's a point in your chart. It is the intersection of the ecliptic path of the sun, how the sun travels around the earth, and the prime vertical, which is the plane that divides the celestial sphere, as they say, from front and back. There are several axes on your chart. If you look at this, the one to the left and to the right, that's called your relationship axis. So the left side of the chart, that horizontal line, that's your ascendant, and that's your personal identity project. That's what you're doing for your personal soul growth. And across to the other side, that is your relationship area as you enter that area. So that's one of the axes. And then the vertical one, the top of the chart is like your career, who you are out in the world. The bottom of the chart is home and family. So you can kind of look at what's going on in your chart, what's where, and kind of get an idea of what's being activated. Another axis is the north node, south node. And then the fourth one that's considered a major axis is actually this vertex axis. So it's vertex, anti-vertex. They are opposite each other. So if you remember, the conjunction going on the 12th is at 22 degrees Capricorn. Guess whose vertex is at 22 degrees Capricorn? President Trump. So why is that important? There's the way the vertex has been described is that it is like the summit, the highest point reached. It has a lot to do with your destiny. And other words that I read, just doing a lot of research into it, was it's the gate, the funnel, the transcendent opening, a turning point in your life, right? This is a significant turning point. So another phrase that I read was it's destiny's gate. Like I said, it has a lot to do with destiny. And the description, they said that this often fills one up with a sense of needing to bring something or someone to completion. What might he be completing? Could it be cleaning up the swamp?
Oh, on the 12th of January.
Yeah.
So will it happen at that time, or will it happen throughout that year?
It'll happen throughout the year. Like I said, it's been coming up for 2 years before. A major conjunction of these slow planets are slow. Like when Mercury hits something, it's quick. It lasts, a week and a half, something like that. But these are slow planets, and they're also considered the collective planets rather than personal planets. So Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, the inner planets, those are your personal planets. They're considered more what's happening to you individually. The ones going out, Saturn, Uranus, all those are more of the collective planets. They're affecting everybody. Mm-hmm. And so they're slower, but more powerful. The other interesting thing about, there's these 4 axes, right? Mm-hmm. And the description, so he obviously Trump's vertex is in Capricorn, and I'll read you the description I read of that. The individual will be called to develop skills in responsible leadership. It is essential that you learn to accept duties and obligations for a future control. Leadership and organization ability go hand in hand, and you must learn patience to cultivate these skills. Doesn't this sound like
patience?
Right on? Yeah. Do not allow your emotions and fears to interfere with realistic attitude in administration. So we're talking about, when he goes off and starts insulting people on Twitter and stuff like that. It's like, rein it in. That's not your job here. Yeah. It is essential that the individual not allow the needs of home, family, or feelings of insecurity to impede in fulfilling your destiny and thereby rise to a position of respect. So it's challenging him. His destiny is to get over the pettiness, the feelings of insecurity that made him have narcissistic tendencies, and to step into a really powerful leadership role. Mm-hmm. Mm. It's his destiny. What are you gonna do? Wow. So there's a link below to a website where if you know your birth time and place, you can enter that data in and find where your vertex is. Mm. Yeah, and see, where are we going? So another thing that I read that was really interesting was that I matched Trump so nicely. Is it says, going around the chart, so like at the far left is your ascendant, right? And as you go from there, it says you take from the environment. So imagine his wealthy childhood. Mm-hmm. Then when you go to the top, which is called the ascendant, they say this is where you're in your career and you're giving to the environment, but it's with compensation. So think of all his career in real estate, right?
Yeah, he gets back.
Yeah, and at the vertex, you're expected to return to the environment through service without compensation. And he's not being compensated. He donates his income, his presidential, So I just thought it fits so nicely. It's sort of like, this is this guy's destiny. He didn't start off wanting to be a hero. He started off wanting to be rich.
Yeah.
And get a lot of people to like him. He said he was a player. He was in the game. So he knows what the game is. So I just thought that as we're going forward into this year, we can expect big changes. Perhaps, I'm not making a prediction, but perhaps the event, which is the solar flash, and you can read, I'll put a link to what I've written about the event of what I've experienced in meditations and dreams about what it's like to when this happens. So go and find out yours if you'd like to know where you need to be for your destiny and your turning point and your tunnel, your pathway to what your soul really came here to do.
Very, very cool. And
Do you have any questions?
Well, no, the only thing I want to say is that if you are interested in having a session with Sarah and helping you with coaching or anything along those lines, she is available. You can have a look at her website, imagicreation.com, and you can book a session with her because she does know what she's talking about, and many areas of information, many sources of teaching. Okay, well, I think that will do us for now. That's a really positive sign for 2020. I think it's going to be a really good one.
It'll be dramatic, but it'll be good.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you next week.
Bye.